Welcome back. It's Play in the Shed day again. So what's going on today? I think today I'll stick with the lathe theme and make yet another thing on the lathe, but this time a very simple project, but one that's really handy. Now, a TIG torch is made up of these parts. There's a TIG tungsten and a collet that goes into another brass receptacle or bronze receptacle, and those three things together, when they're all attached, when you wind in the the cover on the back, it holds the tungsten nice and tight. Now I reckon we can make a scribe using this same principle. These are the three TIG bits that you need: the collet, a tungsten, and the outer sheath. Now these things can be picked up very cheaply from your local welding supplier. You don't have to have a TIG welder to be able to do this little project, and I'm going to use a bit of brass for the handle, but aluminium or steel would do. Now, what sort of thread have we got? It looks like it's a 0.75 thread, quite fine for a 10mm, so it's an M10.75. So the first thing I'm going to do is drill out a hole for the tungsten to slide into, and then a larger hole just for the thread. Any size drill smaller than the thread size is all that's required here. I'm just using this, I think it's about a 5mm, and I'm using it just because it gives me the reach I need for the tungsten to go back up into the handle. Now, the only technical bit in this whole build is how deep to make that thread, because the thread depth defines how much pressure can go on the collet. You'll see this later. Now, I'm just having a bit of a guess, because if it's too deep, I can just take little bits off until I get the right amount of depth of thread to be able to hold onto that tungsten. Because this is a very fine thread, I'm taking my time and just doing it a little bit at a time to make sure that I don't wreck the thread in the process. Okay, that looks okay. Let's see if it fits. And yes, it certainly does. Whether I've got the right depth of thread or not, I'll find out once I fit the collet. So a bit of a clean out. Make sure I don't have any crap in there. And now I can fit the collet and the tungsten together and screw the handle on. Right, so it's the length of the thread plus the collet that sticks out has got to be just a bit longer than the amount of thread that we've got, so that the handle pushes down on that collet and makes it grab onto the tungsten, which surprisingly it does. Wow, I never would have guessed that I would guess so accurately. Oh well, I'll take that as a win. Okay, so there's a a bit of thread on this this outer, and I'm just going to skim across the top of it to take the high points off that thread, make it part of the grip. Okay, that's essentially built, but it's a little bit long, so I'm going to just cut the top end off it and then pretty it up a little bit, and the job will be done. For reference, I'm using a 332 tungsten and collet, but any size will do. But I think the 332 is a good size for a scribe. A little bit more prettying up to do. I'm going to put a knurl on the thread end, but I'm going to make sure that the knurl starts where the thread stops, because if I start squeezing on that thread, which doesn't have a very thick wall, it might deform. So I'm just going in a little bit before I start the knurl, and then I'll take the knurl back to, you know, anywhere, just guess a bit. With the lathe running slowly, I'm just gradually tightening that knurl down onto the material until I see it start to cut. Once I've done that, I just engage the auto feed and it slowly feeds across to the left, creating the knurl. There we go, that looks alright, and there's enough knurl there to hang on to when you tighten it. I'm just going to chamfer that cut end on the top of the handle. I should have done this when I parted off that end, but I forgot about it. Oh well, no problem. So now it's time to give it a final polish and everything will be finished. I'm using 400 emery paper, and then I'll just finish off with some steel wool. As you can see, this project is dead simple. It requires almost no technicalities at all. But apart from making a good additional tool to the workshop, but with Christmas approaching, it would also make a really good present. And as I mentioned before, you don't need to use expensive brass. A bit of aluminium or steel would do the job. Brass just looks a bit fancier. So, make a brass one for your real friends, and make some aluminium or steel ones for your not so great friends. Because this scribe grips the pointy bit with a collet, it means that as the pointy bit gets blunt, you can just resharpen it, reposition the length of the pointy bit, and off you go again. Because tungsten's so tough, one tungsten should last the lifetime of this scribe and the owner. Last job is to put a nice sharp point on this tungsten to finish off the scribe. And the easy way to do that is to just chuck it up into a drill and hold it on the sanding belt. Produce a nice, even and smooth point. Final assembly. That's all complete. Let's give it a test. Does the scribe scribe? The tungsten provides a beautiful, sharp scribe mark. Absolutely perfect. Job's done. Every shed needs a scribe, whether you're a metal worker or a woodworker. So this could provide the perfect present.